Let's look at another example of the quotient rule, and let's find the derivative of this function, tangent of x. Now, you'll notice in our basic differentiation rules, we found derivatives of sine and cosine, but those were our only two trig functions we found the derivative of. So let's find the derivative of tangent utilizing the quotient rule. Since I want to use the quotient rule to find the derivative of tangent, I need to rewrite tangent. And clearly we want a numerator and a denominator if we're dealing with the quotient rule. So let's rewrite tangent as the way we should know, which is sine divided by cosine. In other words, tangent of x is simply sine of x divided by cosine of x. Now I can take the derivative with the quotient rule. So the quotient rule says derivative of the numerator, so derivative of sine, which is cosine, times the normal denominator, which is cosine, minus the normal numerator, which is sine, times the derivative of the denominator. Derivative of the denominator is negative sine. And then that is all divided by the normal denominator squared. So we have cosine of x squared. So that's the derivative of tangent. Now, this is not what most people know the derivative of tangent to be. So let's rewrite this and make this a little bit nicer to see, a little bit nicer to recognize. On the top, you have cosine times cosine. That's just cosine squared. Now, negative sine times another negative sine gives me a positive sine squared divided by cosine squared, all of x. I didn't say that before. You'll notice that cosine squared plus sine squared is what we call, well, some people, I call it the unit circle identity. Cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. Other people have other ways of calling that, other things of calling that, but there's an identity in trig which says cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. So we have 1 divided by cosine squared. By the way, 1 divided by cosine is secant. So really, this is simply secant squared. And that's what most people recognize as the derivative of tangent. That is secant squared. So if our function is the tangent of x, then the derivative of the tangent is secant squared. That's utilizing the quotient rule. So tangent has derivative, which is secant squared. I want you to go ahead then, noticing that the quotient rule can give me derivatives of these trig functions. Go ahead and use the quotient rule to find the derivative of cotangent, and utilize the quotient rule again to find the derivative of secant. Remember, secant is 1 over cosine, cotangent is cosine over sine.